I'm going to try my best to get through a video today. Might get a little choked up, but I'm going to try my best. I want to walk through our showroom, which we still have decorated after the passing of Jimmy Davis, which was my father, the owner of Davis Auto Sales and Davis Off-Road and all of the affiliated companies. We've left the showroom decorated in his honor. We've had several people coming through, including family, that have had a tough time traveling and due to COVID and other things. But just wanted to give everybody a quick view of what they may or may not have been able to see, and some of the things they may not have understood when they came in and did a walkthrough. But everything in this building currently decorated has a lot of meaning to us and a lot of meaning to Mr. Davis. And we'll start off with that sign right there, Hilltop Barbecue. That was owned by a very close friend of the family to my father and my grandfather. It was in Ettrick, Virginia, right on the main thoroughfare. And the Davis family and all the employees of the repair shop, in the best we can figure, late 60s through the 70s and the 80s, ate lunch there every single day. Yeah. Ask questions about that. I remember going there as a kid. Yeah, every single day they ate lunch there. And it was a barbecue place. Matter of fact, the recipe for his special barbecue sauce was left to my grandparents, and I think only them, when he passed. So very close part of the family. Gas pump right there was actually used at our original Ettrick car lot, and I believe that was actually from the Ettrick area as well. When one of the gas stations closed up, Ettrick was really downsized many years ago when they put an overpass across the train tracks. And that gas pump was probably removed from one of the gas stations there by my dad and put into use at our car lot for many, many years. Same with the air pump here. It actually belongs to my uncle. Snooky's Auto Repair in Ettrick. That's where that came from. That was a crank handle operated air pump where you set your pressure. Lots of really nice flowers that were sent by many customers, friends, and family. The old coupe here was one of my dad's favorite cars. He didn't drive any of his cars very much. He didn't get attached to much, but he had this car for probably 15 or 16 years. Rumble seat, he converted it, put the disc brakes on it, and Prowler wheels and tires. Pretty cool car, suicide doors. He did drive this car a fair amount, 55 Chevy with a manual transmission. He took out a 4-speed, put in a 5-speed, and him and my middle brother enjoyed this car quite a bit. Didn't get out a lot, but it got out some. It's actually his first ATV right there, and then each one of us as kids, they got passed down, and we still had it tucked away in a storage building and brought it out. Everybody says how small it was, but back in the early 80s, this was one of the first four-wheelers there were, and that's what size they were back then. The old 28 Chevy project, if you follow any of our social media, my guys posted this a lot. This was a family project that we actually found adjoining a piece of hunting land that we purchased another piece of land adjoining it, and then adjoining that land was this car sitting in a barn. That's an actual real picture. After we had kind of uncovered it with the weeds, you can see the weeds in the background were covering the whole car. There's 4 generations there. T.L. Davis, my grandfather. My dad there to the far right. Uncles. Me, my daughter. My brother's son. Both my brother's cousins there, and another uncle. Same day it was pulled out of the woods from sitting for 20 some years, best we can guess, or more. We did get it running, and then continued to work on it for several months, refinishing one side, leaving the other side raw. Lots of parts availability problems, but at the end of the day we did finish the car to where it was running and driving, and mobile on its own. Very primitive car, mostly all wood. My dad's favorite drink, Dr. Pepper there. Pretty cool project. The whole family was involved at some point. This here, if you're a customer or a friend, or depending on how far you went back with Mr. Davis, that is his one and only truck that he ever kept. He bought this truck in the 70s. It was a two-wheel drive. It might have even been lowered, but it sat very low. He converted it to four-wheel drive, put it on a Blazer frame, stretched the chassis. It's undergone because back then he didn't have a garage, so it's undergone 3 full restoration and paint redos over its lifetime. The fellow that did it the first time is actually the same person that did it the third time, and he was in his 80s when he redid it the last time. Unfortunately, the truck always sat outdoors, so it weathered pretty bad, but still a good looking truck. And honestly, if we could count the times that people wanted to buy this truck, no exaggeration, tens of thousands of times. It used to sit at the car lot in the back, and of course everybody came by, just loved it, and asked how much it was. But he would never part with this truck. I took it over years later when I got ready to start driving and fixed it up so we could take it to car shows. And even though it wasn't ever a show vehicle, it always placed really well, got a lot of attention. Just a cool, rare truck, and a very early primitive four-wheel drive. You could get these factory four-wheel drive, but they were pretty uncommon. Most of the time they were military, so that's what made it stand out. But still a functional truck, starts and runs and drives right now. What was finished 1 year, almost exactly prior to his passing, was his '69 Camaro. He bought this car 20 years ago, running, driving, and disassembled it basically immediately. He had a plan for it. It was a nice kind of original car, but he knew what he wanted to do. Most had probably seen a TV show or something about the 572 Chevy crate motor. He bought this motor. If you Google how far back it goes, we were guessing about 15 years ago, but whenever this motor came out, Jay Leno got one. I think it was Tim the Toolman Taylor got one, and Dad was in line to get his, which this motor came in. Supposedly it was like the second or third motor to be delivered, and they wouldn't even let him take ownership of it. They wanted to tour it around, which they did, and then it sat on display at the Chevrolet dealership until he could bring it home one day. And unfortunately, the project of this car got way out of hand, and with any restoration, everything that he didn't do himself took forever. Eventually my youngest brother took over the project and put a ton of effort into it to finally finish it up for him. Again, he got to enjoy it several times over the last year at car shows. There's a couple pictures of it when it was disassembled. When people say they restored something, most of the time they think paint and body work did a restoration, but this car was chopped back to nothing. Even the top was modified, and quarters and skins and full front clip. Finally got it to a rolling chassis. We fired the motor. He was pretty excited that day. Floor pans were done. And that was his motor sitting in the crate. Pretty neat project. All of us helped him at one point in time on it, and he had some friends that helped along the way. But really turned out to be a great car. It was a very long-term project for him, but he was proud of it when it was done, and my brother did a phenomenal job on it for him. Keeping it pretty sleek looking, but pro touring with the wider back tire. Basic interior with the upgraded gauges, and really nice driver. Really solid car. Always was a solid car, but that ended up being his pride and joy. If somebody walked in the office, he'd always show him a picture that it was finally finished. He was very proud of it. The signs up there, that was from our original dealership, which was across the street. Davis Trucks and More, which was our Route 10 location that we closed in 2020 to move back to Jeff Davis and to our original Ettrick facility to get us a little bit more space. We outgrew that facility and manpower and everything else. And that is the original Ettrick 1970s Davis Auto Sales sign. Back when that sign right there was purchased, which was 20 plus years ago. I don't remember how many thousands of dollars it was, 2 or 3 or 4,000, but it was a feat for us to be able to afford that. It was really, really tough to spend money in the business, but Dad always found a way to do it, and we worked to make things happen, so very fortunate for that. Over here we got a ton of photos, memorabilia, and awards that he won. That sign he saved since the 70s. That was one of his mentors, Billy Gill Used Cars. He was going to put Davis Auto on the top and repaint it, and he never did. And I inherited the sign many years later and was going to put it in my garage, and I had it redone. And he said, "Why don't you leave it alone? Don't paint it." And that's the original paint and background. We had the neon redone, but Billy Gill was a big mentor to him. I helped him out getting started in business and put his foot forward with the right way of doing things. Lots of things along the way of a man's life, you can kind of see where his directions went, and a lot of his mentors, though never met, were great people. And that's more than likely what gave him the strength to do what he did in such a good way. Develop the business he did and be the father he was. He served in his church. He served Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, so many other different leagues, sponsored baseball teams and softball teams, and anything for any of the local schools. If somebody ever asked, he always did it, which was what made him, I think, so popular in the community. He definitely had a good following, and it wasn't the car business that did that. It was him that did that. He also served the country. That's why the flag was placed on his gravesite. Served for either 4 or 6 years. So he took care of his customers, he took care of us, he took care of the family. He was definitely a man of God, so we know he's in a good place. Unfortunately, with COVID, we were very limited on his funeral and other things, but the outreach was tremendous. Phone calls from all over the country. Mom's still receiving cards in the mail, flowers, other things. Just a real testament to who he was and what he meant to people, near and far away. So many stories and other things that were told, and the most blessed part that's let us have a little bit of peace as the family is so many people that lives were better or touched. Each day I get a text or a phone call from somebody that my dad reached out to, or my dad mentored, or my dad, just taught a life lesson, telling them, do this or do that, or, he was just a man of very few words, but he obviously gave a lot of advice to a lot of people, and every one of them respects him. We've had employees come by that worked for him 20 plus years ago and thought of him as a father figure, and we've had customers. Every customer became a friend. That's a lot of dealers even today wonder how we've retained so many customers. We still have customers that Dad sold to back in 1977 that still buy from us today. We have customers all the time that buy a car from us or a truck from us every year or 2 years or 3 years, and they're just like, how do you do that? You know, we sell a car one time, we never see them again. And he always instilled to, take care of the customer, and we have, and he did, and we do, and they come back, and they become part of the family. And I think that's what he wanted. And so anybody that doesn't get a chance to make it by here and see this tribute, it's still here, and we'll keep it up and going. Even the flowers 2 weeks later are still hanging in there, thanks to everybody that has reached out, everybody that has sent prayers and kind words. He really would appreciate all of them, and we sure do. Again, it's kept us as a family as strong as we possibly can be, just knowing that he touched so many people. If you didn't get a chance to watch the funeral, it was live streamed and it is still available to view. We've had a lot of people say that it touched them, to go to church or say an extra prayer or to do something different in their life. And if anything he'd be happy about, that would be it. He was a car salesman because that's what his job was, but he really enjoyed fellowshipping with people, and any way he could help out, he always did. So if nothing else, if somebody watches his sermon or watches this video or follows his life or continues to follow his life or our lives, and it improves their livelihood and the way they live, doing the right thing, then I think we did proud by our Father. So appreciate you watching. Stay tuned. We'll try to bring you some more information on other things and stories and times of the past, because gosh knows we sure have plenty of them through these last couple weeks of really nice testaments to his life and stories of the past and how things were done and things we're still learning today. It's crazy, but he was a good man. We appreciate all the thoughts and prayers as a family and as a business. Thank you very much.